Hello, it's Sean. Today I'm going to be doing a review of Battle Ravens. It's designed by Daniel Mersey and published by PSC Games. I received a free pre-production copy of this game to do a review on, and we're going to take a look at it and see what we think. As I said, this is a pre-production copy, so the stuff that I got may not be quite like it is in the final production. The quality of the stuff might be changed. Cards, dice, whatever. There could be some differences in that. This game is coming to Kickstarter on November 20th, 2018. And once it goes live, I'll add a link to the Kickstarter page in the description. This game represents a battle between the Norse and Anglo-Saxons during the Dark Ages. It's a shield wall, so that's kind of the battle idea here. You have two sides to the battle line. Each has 6 sections in it, and you're trying to take control of your enemy's shield wall, punch holes in it. To win, you need to take 3 sections from the enemy. They can be next to each other or spread out, it doesn't matter, but you've got to take 3 before they take 3 of yours. The rulebook is laid out fairly well. There's some neat little snippets from poems and stuff from the period. That adds a little bit of character to the rulebook. It's kind of interesting that way. When you're setting up the game, each player has 3 herdmen and 3 bondi in each section. You also have 3 thralls that are set up behind your line. These guys have javelins and bows, and they're attacking the enemy. And what these do during the game is they allow you the opportunity to re-roll attack die when you are attacking a section of the wall. You kind of spend them, and then they get replenished at the end of the turn. So both you start with 3 re-rolls each turn. To determine the first player, both sides roll 4 dice, and they count how many successes they have. Successes are always defined as a 4 or 5 is 1 success, and a 6 is 2 successes. So in this roll here, it's 2 successes for one side and 2 successes for the other. So they would just re-roll. Re-roll again. So this time we've got 2 successes to 1. So this side's going to get to go first, and that player becomes the first player throughout the entire game. Each turn, players take all of their available ravens, and then they take turns placing those into sections of the shield wall. So say this side is the first player, and they can place up to 9 ravens or 1, and they pick an area to place that. So I'm going to place these here. So they're placing 4. And then the opponent takes a turn placing some ravens, and they stick just 1 across from there. And once you've placed in an area, you cannot place there again. So if I place just 1 in an area, then I'm done. My opponent then decides to stick 9 ravens in an area. I can't go back and put more there to try to boost that. I'm stuck with that. It's an interesting idea that you've got to kind of plan ahead. You want to have a little bit in lots of places, but maybe you are going to make for a big push somewhere. This keeps going back and forth until both players have placed all their ravens in the shield wall, and I'll just throw them out here. The raven tokens are essentially action points that you're going to get to spend on your turn. They can be used for 3 different things. They can be used to attack, and for each raven that you spend, you get to roll a die in attacking the enemy. Or if I spend 2 ravens from this area, I can move 2 models. They can move together, or they can move separately. You can move 1 to the left and 1 to the right. You can never have more than 9 models in an area. And if I've lost an area, say this has been taken by the enemy, I cannot move over that anymore. So I can get guys pinned down in an area. The other thing that the ravens can be used for is when your enemy attacks you, you can use them to defend. So if he attacks me and he does 3 hits, and I say I'm going to spend 3 ravens, and then I roll 3 dice to defend. So let me kind of walk you through an attack. Let's say I'm going to attack this section here. I'm going to spend all 4 ravens, and I'm going to roll 4 dice. And that's a really good roll. So each of those 6 counts as 2 hits, and each 5 is 1 hit. And I can spend a thrall and re-roll a die. Wow. So that's 7 hits on the enemy. In this case, the enemy has 2 ravens over there. So they can decide to take 7 hits, and just remove the appropriate models, or they can try to block. And we're going to say they're going to block. So he's going to spend 2 ravens, and he's going to roll some dice to try to block. What you need is the same. A 6 blocks 2. A 4 or 5 would block 1. So we'll count those out. So we've netted 5 hits. So they've got to remove 5 points worth of models. For doing this, Herdmen count as having 2 wounds. The Bondi count as having 1 wound. So you have to remove all of the hits if possible. So in this case, I've done 5 hits. So I'm going to take 3 Bondi as dead and 1 Herdman. So that's 5 hits. I could do it 2 and 1, or so that's 5. 2 for each Herdman and the Bondi. However you want to do it. Let's say that there's only 3 Herdmen there, and I have the same 5 hits. Well, they would take 2 of those, and that's 4 hits removed. But then there's 1 more hit. Well, there's nobody there that can take that, so that's a discounted hit. You're not killing that unit, and we don't track wounds between attacks. So it's a little bit of a nice thing that you can have some Herdmen that live through a bigger attack sometimes. There are some advanced rules. To add the advanced rules, each side gets to add some tactics cards. So there's 2 decks of 10 cards each. The Anglo-Saxons have a deck and the Norse have a deck. These are a little bit different for each faction, so it gives a little flavor to that particular army. When you use these, you shuffle them up. Each side gets 5 cards, and they are able to use those 1 per turn during the game. They'll tell you on the card when you can play it and what it's going to do. These cards add an interesting element to the game. Because there's 10 cards and you only get 5 of them, I don't know what my opponent's going to have. I might know all the cards that are available to him, but I don't know which cards he's going to have, and I don't know if he's going to necessarily use them in any particular situation. I think I'll be using these cards all the time in my games, unless I'm playing against somebody who's brand new to gaming. This is a lightweight war game, and I thought it was a lot of fun. It's pretty easy to teach. It's easy to learn. There's not a lot of rules. The rules there are pretty intuitive. They make sense. Nothing weird about them. This game does feel like a battle of attrition. As you move through the game, you start losing models in the wall, and you're moving guys around trying to keep the holes filled because you don't want to have those sections fail. And you get to a point where you just don't have enough models to plug the holes. Or somebody gets lucky and you've used all your movement actions in an area, and these guys get knocked out and you're just stuck. I can't move anybody in there. You lose those sections over time as your wall just gets thinner and thinner. I think that fits the theme. Movement, as I said earlier, is important, but I didn't do a lot of movement until my wall got thinned down a little bit, and then you start, I gotta plug that hole. I gotta move some guys over there. I like the action system in this game. The way the ravens work is pretty neat. You've got to decide at the beginning of your turn where you're going to put them. You're watching your opponent to see where they're sticking theirs, because you don't want him to have a pile someplace where you can't really respond. When you're spinning them during the turn, it's also kind of interesting because you're like, well, do I want to do a big hit here? He's got a lot to defend with. Or do I want to wait and see what he does to me? And then, as I said, when you've got thinned down a little bit, you are worried about, well, do I need to leave 1 or 2 in a space so that I can move guys over into that hole if it gets or if a hole appears. I did have a few little quibbles with the game. The artwork is nice, I said that, but the stands cover the labels on the tokens, so it's not a huge deal, but it does make them hard to read. And there's not a lot of difference between these. I mean, that's the 2 different factions. The colors are pretty similar. There's some differences, yes. But when you're got all these piled up in your box and you're getting ready to set up your game, sorting through these is a little bit of a pain. I'm going to just put them in bags to keep them separate so that I don't have to sort them in the same way. All the Anglos are going to be on one side, all the Norse are going to be in another bag, and that won't be as big of a deal. But I don't know if they can redesign these tokens a little bit so that the shapes are more distinguishing so that you can get them, or there's maybe some more difference in the color. I don't know. Just a thought. Not a huge deal. The art is kind of nice on these. I like it. The other thing is this game is a dice game. You can have rolls where people get real lucky, and that can swing the game a fair bit. So you saw there, I had rolled 4 dice and I ended up with 7 attacks, or 7 hits. Well, that's a lot. When you're rolling 4 dice and you almost get, double the number of dice you rolled in hits, that's pretty significant. Now, it's not necessarily an awful thing, because it's kind of neat when you're like, well, I'm behind, I'm losing a little bit, and then you suddenly get 7 attacks and your opponent's like, oh gee. Well, it's fun because it fits the theme. There was somebody down there, they're like, hey, we're losing, let's go. And you get a little bit of surge in your shield wall. It's thematic, it fits, but it really does, it kind of sucks to be on the receiving end of that attack. It's a fairly quick game. 45 minutes, most games, I think, once you've got the rules down. Maybe they'll stretch to an hour. Probably not. I think it's going to be at that 45-minute time frame, maybe even a little bit less most of the time. So being kind of swinging on the luck isn't that big of a deal to me, but for some folks it will be a problem. I really enjoyed this game, and I'm going to be playing it more. I'm going to introduce it to my gaming group. I've already played it with a couple of different friends, but I'll be playing it more with different groups, and I'm sure we'll get some better ideas on tactics and strategies as we play it more often. If you're looking for a heavy simulation war game, this one probably isn't for you. But if you like a lighter war game, it's easy to get into, easy to teach and learn, this one might be some one that you want to check out. As I said, I'll add a link in the description to the Kickstarter once it goes live. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this and the other projects that I work on, please subscribe to my channel and be sure to click the bell so you get notifications when I post videos. You can also subscribe to my Twitter feed at Hero of the Table, and there you can see the games that I'm playing and the models that I'm working on that may not make it to video. If you have questions or comments, please put them in the comment section below. Thanks for watching.